AI agents. It is on everybody's mind. Lots of people are talking about it, and we've got the experts here today. It is an interesting time. You know, this AI agent is coming from science fiction into reality. Many people are already using them, and let's get right to it. I'm going to give you a bit more context on our guests here today, all of whom are building different layers of the AI agent stack, starting with Swapnil Jain, CEO, co-founder of Observe.AI, which automates customer calls with voice AI, augments human agents with real-time assistance, and helps businesses improve their call center operations. So Swapnil founded Observe.AI in 2017. He's since grown the business to 350 enterprise customers, 300-plus employees, raised over $200 million. And this is just a warm-up for Swapnil. You can catch him on the stage again tomorrow, where he'll be giving a keynote on AI agents in customer success. Thank you very much for being here, Swapnil.
Thank you for having me.
Next, we have Tony Wang. Tony is the co-founder, chief revenue officer of Agora. Agora provides the technology infrastructure that developers use to build real-time experiences like AI voice agents, conversational AI applications. He founded the business in 2015, took it public in 2020, and now serves thousands of customers in over 100 companies. This is a bit of a victory lap for Tony. You know, he already completed his keynote presentation this morning, where he talked about beyond tokenization, shaping the future of conversational AI. Excited to get a bit more into AI agents with you, Tony.
Thank you.
And finally, last but not least, Val. I had a similar presentation prepared for his background, but right before we came up here, he told me, hey, shorten it, just let them know that I'm the chief AI officer and tell them that I'm building software-defined memory. That's intentionally vague. We're going to leave that up to him to define for us here in a moment. And again, you can catch Val on tomorrow's Fireside Chat, Unlocking the Future of AI, Trends, Infrastructure, and Tokenomics. Val, thank you very much for being here.
Great to be here.
So let's get into it. We've got the application layer with Swapnil, we've got the communication infrastructure with Tony, and we've got the data infrastructure with Val, the complete AI agent technology stack. And when people think AI agents, I think future of work is question number one. If AI agents are acting for all of us doing our work, what are we going to do? This brings us to an interesting prediction that I heard you make recently, Swapnil. You said that within 5 years, over 50% of support calls will be fully automated by AI. So with that in mind, help us understand why AI agents matter so much right now, what makes them different from previous automation, and which industries are you seeing have the most transformative impact?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think AI agents, I'm sure we all have heard that term probably 100 times in the day today. But this is very, very different than the previous generation of software we have seen. So far, software was meant, built for humans to go ahead and execute a very specific task. Let's say you're creating a report on Salesforce. You go and go through 10 steps and the report comes out. AI agents are far, far different, right? Earlier, you would do small tasks, and that's what the software does. AI agents are capable of finding how to get to a goal. So with AI agents, you don't define sort of the sub-steps. You say, hey, go and make me a coffee. And AI agent will figure out that, oh, I need to grind the coffee beans. I need to make an espresso. Then I need to get the milk, froth the milk, and make a cappuccino out of it, right? So with what we are seeing with AI agents in customer service industry, right? Customer service is an industry where you still do a lot of repetitive work. We all call our banks and our healthcare companies, setting up appointments, canceling a credit card, and so on. There's a lot of repetitive nature, which makes it very, very good for AI, right? AI is great at automating repetitive tasks and repetitive jobs. So with AI agents now, what you can do is automate a lot of the customer service calls that today human agents do. So when we call our banks today, on the other side, we see a human agent, which is taking the call, answering the queries. Now with LLMs, with AI agents, with great speech-to-text, with great text-to-speech, you can have very, very human-sounding, conversational, empathetic AI agents, which will talk to you, understand what your problem is, go and integrate with different systems in the back end, and automate that workflow, right? So that's sort of like where I see the world is going to go. We will need a lot less customer service agents because a lot of that will be done by these AI agents who are capable of executing a task end-to-end without requiring humans to get involved at all.
And what does that look like on the ground today? You've been serving call centers for many years. You've watched them adopt large language model technology. Now you're watching them deploy agents in real life. What's actually happening when you say these jobs are now being done by agents?
Yeah, so I think today I'll use the example of healthcare. In U.S. healthcare, there's tremendous amount of calls that we all make and receive. A lot of our customers in healthcare industry are now using AI to make those calls, right? Either if you get a call, very likely it's an AI making you a call, or if you're calling in to schedule an appointment, cancel an appointment, check if a certain doctor is in your benefits plan or not. These are being handled by AI agents in production at scale. There's still a situation where I think we're not at a place where, because LLMs by definition are non-deterministic in nature, these are not deterministic systems, there's still an error that happens with these systems. You still see hallucinations. So what we are seeing is a lot more simpler queries being automated by AI, right? But a lot more complex. For example, if you're calling in saying, hey, my claim got denied. Now, that is something you don't want AI to handle. You want humans to be involved because that requires a lot more empathy. It's far more complex, and that's where we're seeing humans get involved, right? But the more simpler ones, tier 1, tier 2, basic simple calls, we are seeing large enterprises in the US in healthcare, financial services, insurance, using AI to automate those interactions now and making it easier for consumers like us so we don't have to be on hold for way too long or get transferred from an agent to another agent right now.
Makes sense. One more question for you, Swapnil, about AI voice agents. I may be the only one here, but transparently, when I realize I'm talking to an agent, my first action is to hang up the phone.
Yeah.
Quite often. What happens then? Are your customers suffering with this, and what's to be done about it?
So the example you gave is the previous generation of technology, right? So I would do that too, 2 years ago, when I would be dealt with an AI agent, someone sounding robotic. But I would challenge you today that if I play an AI agent call right now, you would not be able to distinguish if it is actually AI or a human. Today, the conversational nature of these AI agents, right? You would see the AI agents doing, you would see them showing empathy. They would use filler words, right? They sound so human from every aspect of what a human looks like that you actually cannot differentiate. Secondly, if these AI agents are able to solve your problems, would you rather wait for 30 minutes to talk to a human or just talk to an AI agent, get your problem resolved? So interestingly, I would say, if I again go back to the technology before 2 years, before LLMs and generative AI came out, the traditional NLU, NLP technologies, I think everyone did what you just said, which is hang up, ask for a human agent. But now we are seeing the other way, which is like, as a consumer, if I can get my problem solved with an AI agent, I would love to do that. And our consumers are doing that right now.
Makes sense. As we think about AI agents, the future of work, Tony, maybe let's talk a bit about human-AI collaboration from your perspective. You have a unique view. You serve thousands of developers. They're building voice AI applications. I've recently been amazed at the explosion with AI voice applications. It seems like half of every recent YC batch is an AI voice agent. In prep for this panel, I found there's a podcast called The Future of AI Voice, and I couldn't believe how many episodes there were with different founders. These are the people you're serving every day. From your platform perspective, Tony, how do you see the relationship between humans and AI agents evolving, maybe with a focus on voice AI?
Yeah, I think the key thing to actually realize is AI is not just a couple chips and bits and bytes. It's a new species. Let's be very frank, it's a new species enter into human communication, right? And up to this point, human communication protocol has been designed for human to human, where your brain handles 80% subconscious. That 80% subconscious is undefined and unsolved, not benchmarked, and it's totally new. Right now, in a productivity environment where Observe.AI is play, I actually agree. I think you cannot tell the difference. Right, it's good enough. It don't need 5 years. I was thinking the time is now. And I've been making some calls, some of the demo apps we've been have. The effect is really good, and the cost has been continue dropping, right? But when you're coming down to a different arena, you're talking about emotion, right? And then by the way, I say emotion, it's a big. You're talking about companionship as a toy, for kids, companionship as a senior people, for the loved ones who passed away, or just his old memory, right? Companionship for all those things down to like 50 shades of different gray of companionship, right? That is actually very hard. Just give you one simple, imagine you talk to an Italian person when he cannot use his hand, right? That body language is missing half, right? And then you take away your camera, you cannot see his impression. What about read between the lines, right? What about all those like emotion stuff? When you're taking those away, there is no such a thing as emotion. And as a thing, I would say, what people willing to pay most money for is for emotion. That's what you pay most money for. And in a world when we are getting more and more lonely, that is a part that we're trying to bring it to it. Even with customer service, I think right now it's good enough to solve my transactional problem. But sometimes I don't call customer service until I'm pissed, right? So really what I needed is you first calm me down before you solve my problem. Right? So I would say the difference, right now it's just like get things done. But into the next level is your agent will be able to sense the emotion and be able to, give customer more kind of comfort, right? And for that, because every airline operate on the same Boeing and Airbus. But why there's so many different brand experience? Singapore Airline, what's the difference? It's the people, it's what you feel inside. Right? So I would say that is what we focus on, and it's a very big stack of its own. And we're very lucky to be in this age to address this problem.
Yeah, very interesting. AI agents as a new species, as something with emotion. When we think about what that means for the future of humans, where do you see the impact being biggest in the short term? Let's talk the next 6 months.
6 months. I think 6 months, not too much will happen. I think would be his company will be taking more customer, right? But if you look at the horizon much longer, I always think about this because everything I grew up with, I don't know if it's it's still hold true. Do you still go to college for computer science degree? I don't know. Maybe yes, I don't know. Do you still want to be a freelance designer? I don't know. Right? Is Fiverr still a good job, or one of those freelance work remote? Actually, this is I think AI have a much bigger social impact than we thinking. And you look at some of the economic that is built on BPO operation, right? And you look at your company, I start doing more and more. AI is my best co-pilot for writing everything. Do I really need another virtual assistant? Do I really need another even assistant? Actually, forget about virtual, even an assistant. Do I really need it? So I actually don't know. I think this might be a good time to take a pause and look at how this will impact society. In the end of the day, you have the best AI, but nobody can afford buying stuff. I don't know, maybe this is too much thinking, but when you're at the forefront, you sometimes you wake up and get scared about where we are going. But in the meantime, you get very excited because everything is unknown. It's like third industrial revolution for us.
Val, let's ground this conversation in some of the technical realities and talk agent architecture for a minute. You're building tomorrow's AI factories. You talked about the gap, AI's hidden bottleneck, compute-powered data delivery, but I'm also curious about the agent tech stack itself. When you look at subtasks, when you look at parallel model calls, inference scaling, technically, what are the limitations for AI agents today, and how does that affect what jobs AI agents can actually take over, or whether or not they can exist with us as a new species, as Tony says?
Yeah, I love that question. So it's really important to appreciate the scale at which all of this technology is operating at. Some of you might have read, if you follow the news in the US, this famous movie about 3 Mile Island, this nuclear power plant in Philadelphia that had an accident and 20 years ago was decommissioned. Guess what's being brought back? That nuclear power plant. Because the demand for energy is literally nuclear power plant scale, 1 gigawatt of energy at a time. So that's one of the macro bottlenecks, is there's just got to be an enormous amount of energy here to feed these giant AI data centers, which Jensen from NVIDIA likes to call AI factories. Within those, you've got to populate them with just enormous, typically on the high end, 100,000 GPUs, graphical processing units. You've got to network all that together. You've got to have the memory for it, the storage. So it's just a volume, volume of infrastructure to process the volume of data here is the number one thing to consider. And the visual I like is if you've ever seen a drone show lately, that's replacing a lot of fireworks shows. It's more fire friendly, doesn't have as many wildfires and stuff like that. when you actually see the drones either taking off or landing, it's quite impressive because you're overwhelmed by the sheer number of drones. So for AI agents, it's the same thing right now. No one, when you actually make these things work, when you power these agents, no one thinks of individual agents, right? And even like task-oriented agents that create subtasks and worker agents, it's best to think of you either not doing any kind of agentic work, or if you are, it's swarms of agents.
Yeah.
So massive amounts of parallel processing. And we'll get to this a bit later on, but that has implications not just in terms of having that raw energy, that raw real estate, that raw compute and horsepower. What are the economics of it all, right? What are the token pricing trends? That's like the fuel of the industry is tokens. All these agentic apps, you have to figure out. Someone sitting there with a spreadsheet that you've all probably seen in terms of what are my costs per token, and what can I charge my customer for all of the various goals and tasks to deliver what they want. So these are the things we have to consider here, and we'll follow on with some more details later on with regards to specifics around the unit economics of what makes us all tick.
Yeah. And what about from a technical security concern standpoint? It makes sense that AI agents should be acting on behalf of users all across the web to do things for them, but that brings up questions around authentication and much more. What's keeping you up at night?
Social engineering, right? One of the I come from a cybersecurity background, and one of the biggest risks is not the encryption keys or future quantum computing and all that. It's literally someone calling T-Mobile, pretending they're you and doing a SIM swap, taking over your phone number with just a phone call. We're usually bribing an agent at T-Mobile nowadays to do that for you for like $200 or whatever. And then they own you, right? They've got your Gmail. All of a sudden, they can take over your crypto wallet at Coinbase. All of a sudden, they can take over your identity on social media. And so agents with all sorts of agency that we give them today are relatively immature security-wise. So it's not that difficult. Unfortunately, it's very easy to just find people in red teams or other kind of adversarial environments that can trick an agent into impersonating you, into doing something, quote unquote, on your behalf that you didn't authorize. So that's probably the number one thing that keeps you up at night. And then there's more mundane things like how do you just do proper authentication? Is this my agent? Is it really acting on my behalf, or is it someone pretending to act on my behalf? And when it's properly authenticated as acting on your behalf, your digital twin, so to say, is it being authorized correctly? Is it just allowed to do anything? Just withdraw unlimited funds from your bank account, or drain all of your OpenAI tokens and stuff like that. So there's plenty of issues to work on, and this industry is moving so fast that, like most fast-moving industries, security is the last concern. Functionality, gaining customers, product-led traction is the biggest concern. So we just have to make sure we keep up, and mitigate the obvious risks, and learn all the new, unimagined risks right now in an agentic world that we will learn through trial and error and a lot of scars like we always do.
Makes sense. Everybody and their dog is building an AI agent today, but we're lucky to have some experts from all layers of the AI agent stack. We can get down in the weeds in infrastructure. Why don't we talk about it for a minute? I know I'm asking you a lot, but let's put you on the hot seat again, Val. Tell us about tokenomics, like you mentioned. How does unit economics affect AI agents today?
I think the simplest analogy is miles per gallon, right? Or nowadays with driving EVs, it's like, the range per charge. If we're planning a road trip, we need to know how many miles, kilometers we're going to get out of this charge before we go ahead. It's the same thing when we're designing agentic systems. It's like we need to understand how many tokens per second we can consume. We need to understand what they cost. So there's these two interesting overlapping trends right now. And it's interesting you mentioned, that 2 years ago, we wouldn't have noticed. Today we don't notice. 2 years ago, we would have noticed that we're talking to an agent. And I'm going to speculate that the reason that today the quality of your agents are so good is you're able to consume a lot more tokens affordably to deliver that quality experience. And that's because the price of inference, the cost of those tokens, has plummeted about 100x. So not 100%, but 10,000%, 100x the cost of those tokens. And like Jevons paradox that many of you might know, the more you lower the cost of a very high quality commodity, the more demand surges for that commodity, and so it more than compensates for the lower cost. And being able to deliver all those tokens efficiently isn't just the raw horsepower I mentioned earlier on. It's some very intelligent software that's always changing. It's software in how we take the models we train, that's called baking the cake in the industry, and how we actually eat the cake, how we run the models, that's called inference. There's an enormous amount of improvement in the engineering of these models. Fortunately, DeepSeek has gained such notoriety in the industry, not because they helped the NASDAQ lose $1 trillion a few Mondays ago, 3 months ago, but because they're very transparent in the research of their models, but how they operate them. And they showed there's ways to just introduce enormous efficiencies at the infrastructure layer. Novel things like, instead of having 2 separate clusters, big GPU clusters, often 2 data centers, one for training, one for inference, DeepSeek said we can't afford that. We're too constrained on the actual GPUs we're allowed to own. So we're going to combine that. We're going to do the unprecedented and combine our clusters for training and inference on the same cluster. And then we're actually going to, have intelligent algorithms that overnight do just-in-time training, but in the daytime do inference to bring in the revenue. So lots of novel things that are happening on the engineering side. Clever software optimizations. I won't bore the audience with all sorts of other cool open source projects that are out there, but taglines like VLLM that people might have heard of, that's probably like the most popular open source project today because it's rapidly innovating and serving these models, lowering the cost of the tokens and enabling amazing apps like we're hearing about today.
Tony, I'd love to bring you into this conversation about the infrastructure. You serve so many developers. As you see them build AI agents in the field, what breaks down and what can you tell us about trends when it comes to unit economics?
Yeah, so I want to concur one of what thing he said. A lot of time people thinking about cost, they believe it belongs to the CFO and accountant. This is not. This is actually, I think every new technology has 2 phases, right? You have phase 1 that is more academic. Who can invent the most shining object? But then you go to the second phase. Who can deliver with the most efficient, basically? And then that efficiency did not coming from CF, efficiency coming from the innovation, the algorithm, right? Everything, right? All together, controlling your stack from general purpose GPU to maybe the future of special purpose GPU, right? We actually have a use case. You probably have more data, but I just talking with one of a potential customer. I noticed if it was early last year, the majority of the cost of getting a customer service AI-based call might be on the model side and GPU side. It's no longer. It's actually more than 50% of its cost is actually on the emotional side of the TTS side of it, right? Where everything else, you're talking about SIP trunking, STT, larger model, GPU, was only half of it, right? So, and I think that's actually something very interesting. So I actually thinking we are almost at that place because consumer needs, for example, we just talked about, you can hardly tell the difference. But even if you tell difference, so what? It's not a companion. It's not talking to a psychologist, right? So you are okay with it, but it's good enough. The open source is good enough. Very soon, open source TTS would be good enough. So you now go down to the cost. Whoever can address this problem, and by the way, behind the cost, there's some hidden stuff, skill, right? And then on top of skill, there's another thing called stability. If your infra was today was 1 second round trip, tomorrow was 50 half a second, it actually cannot work because your productivity use case demand certain level of SLA, right? So that stability is very important. So I actually think there's so much goes into efficiency and scalability, and that is the phase we are, in my personal opinion, we are about to get into. And the real race has just begun from academic now to the industry.
Let's get right into it. Let's talk industry. Let's talk how business models are changing and what the economic impact of these AI agents can be. And I heard a hot take from Swapnil recently that I found quite interesting. A lot of VCs and founders, they're saying that AI agents need to take market share from services. This makes sense to me, especially with some of the eye-watering valuations of the leading AI labs. They need to make all of this revenue from somewhere someday. But Swapnil, I heard you say that you don't believe in service as a software or in the AI-ification of services, specifically when it comes to contact centers. So tell us what you mean by that. Why are you maybe thinking about things a bit differently?
Yeah, I think a good framework to think about cost, scalability, everything from an application perspective is your AI agent is another employee. Earlier you had or have these human employees, right? Now you have these AI employees, AI agent. You have an AI agent for marketing, or you can go further deep down and say content marketing, and then you have AI agent who is doing performance marketing for you, and then you have an AI agent who is doing customer service. There's an AI agent for sales, right? So that's sort of like one big framework. These are your employees who are executing, who are capable of reasoning, thinking, taking decisions, and executing something end to end. So now you put that in the perspective of customer service, right? Today, your customer service organization, you have thousands of agents, human agents, I'll keep saying that, human agents, right? Who are taking all these calls and chats and emails. And now we think like a part of that will be done by AI agents, right? Let's go to the concept itself. So the concept is when they talk about like service as a software. So far we have seen software as a service, which is software companies like Observe, which is a software company, are offering a service to the end customer. We are a product company. On the other side, there are services companies like BPOs, like IT services companies like Concentrix, Teleperformance, Accenture, Infosys of the world. And the argument that exists in the industry now are the two going to merge. Because the current paradigm is a human uses a software to get the job done. And we're moving to a paradigm where an AI agent gets the job done end to end, right? They don't care about the software or the services part. So now there's a larger argument in the industry, which is, well, as an end customer, let's use an example. Bank of America cares about getting customer service done. Someone reaches out to them, they want it resolved. They don't care about the software or the people or who are the parties involved. So now do we see a world where the software and the services collide? And these are obviously AI agents. They will do things end to end. And now there's no software and there's no service. It's like an outcome model, right? The customer only cares about the outcome. What does Bank of America care about? I want my chat query resolved. That's all I care about. And then on the other side, you have these companies who are mixing services and software, especially AI agents, and then doing these things, right? So that's sort of like a paradigm that's being discussed, right? And I do think like we will see this paradigm very heavily in a lot of services industries like accountants, lawyers, where when you think about you outsourcing to a law firm, you really don't care about what software they're using. You don't. You just want them to redline your document or generate your document. Now, they could employ AI agents on the other side to draft these documents. Doesn't matter to you. All you care about was the legal document. Same thing is going to happen in industries like accounting and other places. I think we won't see this in customer service just yet. Customer service is not yet an outcome model, and that's what I was referring to with my point, that I don't think we will see a service and software coming together in customer service. We will absolutely see that in other places like a law firm, accounting firm, and other places like that.
I'd love to open this business model question up to you, Tony and Val. What are you seeing from your perspective? AI agents are popping up in industry. How is it changing business models for you or your customers?
I kind of am fascinated by the pricing trends going on right now. So the LLM industry got us all accustomed to the $20 a month price point. Now we're seeing developers being wildly productive with Anthropic Claude and their max pricing tier at about $200 a month, and combined with Claude Code and theoretically unlimited tokens being very, very productive. I think as we go to see more and more domain-specific agents, we're not going to stop at about $2,000 a month for some of these agents because they're adding a lot of value. We're going to start to get to $20,000 a month per agent. And at that point, that's pretty much the cost of a person, a skilled person. Now, yes, the agent can do 1,000 times the same thing, but it's not really replicating the same work. That's the point of an agent, right? It's being context aware. It's responding to the environment. So I actually think instead of this concern about losing a lot of jobs, it's just we're going to start to see that truly valuable agents are expensive. And we're going to start to, unfortunately, anthropomorphize them again and treat them like humans and coworkers in a sense. There's already some articles, some McKinsey-style articles about people merging, the IT department and the HR department. And so we're getting into this just interesting world right now where there's so much value, and we have to pay for this value, but we have to figure out now, it's not just a one-for-one replacement of people for agents. There's high-value work here. There's There's just a lot of considerations when we're looking at such high value at this associated cost that's not the cost we started with.
Tony, what about you? You've been in this game a while. Since AI agents are on the scene, what are you seeing in terms of how it changes business models, or where do you think you'll see business models change in the future?
Well, yeah, I've been thinking about this question myself. I don't really have the exact answer, but internet basically is advertisement or e-commerce, right? I mean, for most of the initial 10, 20 years, right? So I'm just wondering, first of all, talking about that one, I do think there's one difference over here is AI is scalable, right? You may have one or two key programmer if it's a human being. You're going to relocate him from Bangalore to Silicon Valley. But with AI, you can really just scale. It's a matter of money, and you have the ROI, you can scale. So, but on the other end, let's say if you are a model company and model with DeepSeek and everything, most model became commoditized in terms of good enough. I'm not saying there's no end to it. There's always room to improve. But for majority day-to-day use, there is a point called good enough. And at that point, and you can scale, right? How that would be actually, frankly, I don't have the exact answer. And you have those new model company, they trying to disrupt. Yes, a lot of people over here using ChatGPT, but even that amount of number compared to people using Google search on a daily basis, it's probably small. So Google can still easily defend itself, right? And same thing with traditional shopping companies, they can easily defend itself. So I actually thinking, right now, it's still early, and that's actually the exciting part of it. It's actually very early, and we are all part of this chaos system, where a small thing over here, even what you're doing, could totally changing the outcome, right? The Manus started really, a couple months ago, the agent, and everybody wow, agent can do so many things, then just ask questions. And this morning, I think yesterday, I saw a travel planning agent, the one I actually spent a lot of time on, to plan the best kind of routes, right? It's gonna save me a lot of time. So I think right now it's relatively too early to say that because there's too many unknown, right? The only thing we know for sure is if you're not embrace it, you will be left behind. And I don't think that's gonna be friendly.
It is early. Let's double click on the competitive aspect of the AI agent market. You asked a question earlier that was very interesting. Will the LLMs take it all? I'd love for you to give us your thoughts on that and then maybe open it up to the rest of the panel here. What do you think? Is this a game for the LLMs to win?
So if we go back to the travel agent example, right? The key thing is, can you get access to the current travel inventory, Amadeus? System like that, right? C-Trip or whatever other, airline booking system. And do they allow your agent to do high-frequency query, right? If you don't have that, you're not going to be able to compete, right? So, and who has the most leverage on that side? Obviously, Google. How many we already using Google Flight Search, right? I actually thinking the only reason Google Flight Search don't book directly is because antitrust. If I have a choice, if there's no antitrust, I'm going to book every single trip and ticket on Google Flight Search, right? So then let's say Gemini enable that travel planning for you, and that's end of it, right? Now, Gemini will probably have a better position to negotiate versus a 5-person startup company. So I'm actually in the camp of large model will eat it more aggressively.
Swapnil, what about you? Are you on the side of that 5-person startup trying to go to war with the large models, or do you share Tony's thoughts?
No, I don't share. I disagree with him actually on this one. I think my view is whenever there's a big technology shift, right? Go back to maybe 20 years ago when we were moving from on-premise to cloud, the very famous Oracle, Salesforce battle. Then mobile came, right? And now, and first generation of AI. Now we're at the second generation of AI, right? People often think these waves are about technology. That, hey, I've been a 20-year-old company, I've been writing software, I can hire 10 engineers and become an AI agent company. I don't think it's ever about the technology, it's about the mindset, right? I would argue that a 5-person company coming out of YC, right, they are so AI agent first as a DNA that a company like Google, who has so much baggage as a company in thinking, in operating, in business model, in rewards, in incentives, and every single thing, that 5% company will have an AI agent native DNA, and they will out-execute these large companies, right? When we think about the foundation models, though, right? There I agree, companies like OpenAI, Gemini, all these will succeed because it's a big capital play, right? But then when you think of a specific application stack, a travel planner company, a customer support AI company, a coding AI, we all know about Cursor, right? The company which took off, right? It's a small set of people, right? And because they came at the problem from an AI agent native mindset, right? So I actually agree, like every company out there, every business model out there is to be disrupted by a 5% company sitting out in Silicon Valley in their garage. That's what I tell my company, that guys, there's some people out there who are plotting how to kill Observe.AI, right? And how do we not let that happen?
Val, you have an interesting take here. I've heard you say that memory technology will determine the winners. We're coming short on time, but can you give us in 30 seconds, why do you think that?
So when you actually examine how this technology works, the economics, the cost per token and so forth, it comes down to this thing in inference called disaggregated prefill. Just technical term, you don't have to worry too much about it, but it's literally making sure that the GPU, which is that most precious asset, is doing the right thing at the right time. And half the time, it has to basically do something that's very compute-bound in terms of transferring your prompt into its working memory, its key value cache, and then the other half of the time, actually has to decode the model using the working memory to get the reasoning tokens, to get the output tokens, to literally feed the agents. And that's a memory-bound process. And so right now, we're not optimizing anything. We're making these $100 billion investments in these data centers, and there's no assembly lines the way we're doing the inference, actually. We're trying to do everything with one type of GPU, mix these workloads. So when you're able to disaggregate the compute-bound stuff from the memory-bound workloads, you're able to actually introduce an assembly line, surprisingly enough, for the first time in this industry. So it's as simple as the industry is finally having its Model T moment. And we can't imagine a factory today without assembly lines. We've been operating AI factories up until recently without assembly lines. Memory is what enables us to implement assembly lines, and we streamline the production of tokens because we can't make more nuclear power plants in the next 5 years. We're often running out of real estate. It's not easy to just get as many GPUs as you want. But if you use that more efficiently and you solve the memory bottleneck, you unlock way more tokens, you lower the price, you enable much higher quality agents.
Final lightning round. Let's talk to the audience here who's using these and trying to prepare for a future with AI agents. One line from each of you. What should the audience members do today to prepare for the future economy with AI agents?
Yeah, I'll share what I share with most of the CIOs that I meet in the US, which is, I think there's a lot of thinking that, AI is not there yet, it still hallucinate, it's not perfect, right? So there's a lot of companies and CIOs who are waiting on the sidelines for AI to get perfect. But the flavor of AI we are talking about today will actually never get perfect. It's not, by design, it is not a deterministic technology, right? You can get to 99% accuracy, 99.5, but if you're expecting this is like a fully deterministic 100% accurate system, it's not the case. So what I leave you with is start now. And I'll again remind you, there's a 5% company sitting in Silicon Valley disrupting all of you. So either disrupt or be disrupted.
Yeah, I concur about starting now part of it. Joining this conference is step one. You're not competing with AI, that's too fast. You're competing with other people. Let the old jokes goes like you are in the forest with your friend as a bear chases you, right? You're gonna be run faster than the bear. You're gonna be run faster than the friend, right? So that is what you're gonna do.
Yeah, and I keep it really practical. There was a time when we used to keep to-do lists and spreadsheets and manage all sorts of random things in spreadsheets, not just budgets. When Excel became a really popular thing at work, do that with Cursor now. It's free to download. Just download Cursor. I have no stock in this company, by the way, so it's just honest advice. And start to, if you're not a coder, don't code with it. Create PowerPoints with it. It generates slides. Manage your to-do list more efficiently with it. Have it automatically respond to all of the emails, the junk emails that you don't want to respond to, and focus on the emails you do care about from the key people. But use Cursor with English or your own natural language that it supports to do work now. Think of it as the 21st century spreadsheet, and just get hands-on of where it works, where it doesn't, and you're going to be so much more valuable to your organization by just having that hands-on knowledge, which is not intimidating, not complicated. So just try it.
Thank you very much, all. That's our time.